everybody, Jason Bermas here. What up, Mr. Telford? You're in the future, are you? Every moment we slip into the future. And if you've been watching my broadcasts now for some time, you will notice that I have been focusing on more and more about transhumanism and what the next step is in the world we live in, really, and how rapid this is going to be deployed. And I got to tell you, I got to be totally honest with you guys. I didn't think that the globalists, the predator class, the people at the top were really on the schedule that they wanted to be on. And I think that they had some really wishful thinking in the 60s and 70s and maybe even the 80s. And they would have liked to get a little more done before 2020, but they've really settled for this 2030 marker to have this whole, the guns, give me a break, to have this whole globalist / carbon / stakeholder capitalism / blockchain digital slavery grid in place, while they hope that the vast majority of human beings will literally be merged with machines. And more I'm seeing these minions of the predator class, really just people who are within the business system, if you will, right? In other words, they're executives, they run this, they've been probably generational, they didn't get that job by accident, a lot of nepotism. And when we talk about, for instance, phones, right? That's the big form factor everybody's using right now, obviously. But just like this, there are other digital devices. VR has now gone cheap and commercial, and the metaverse is a big push with the WEF. They continue to just state flat out that these interfaces are going to be built into us. Built into us. Now, this is a huge deal because we live in the post-truth world, all right? And I think that's a good way to describe it. When I say the post-truth world, what I mean is we live in a world where truth not only doesn't matter anymore and is not only actively suppressed, but it is also criminalized under the guise, in an Orwellian nature, of freedom, democracy, free speech, right? They'll try to say with these hate speech laws that people have the right to feel safe, right? You have the right to be safe. And they use the same rhetoric when they talk about gun legislation as well. And here's what really worries me. So many people have banked on the Second Amendment in this country and the number of firearms that private citizens own. And as I would say, the vast majority of you guys know, I am pro Second Amendment big time. Not because I'm some kind of a hobbyist or been into guns or really love playing soldiers or first-person shooters, because I understand that they're not there just for hunting. And they're not there just for protecting you and your family from local crime or a bad situation, right? There's a bigger purpose to that Second Amendment. And unfortunately, again, we live in this society where we've tricked ourselves into thinking everything's going to be a ground war. Let's take a second back right now. There's a lot of evidence, if you've been following this Ukraine and Russian conflict, there's a lot of evidence right now that where POWs of Ukrainians were being held, and at first the media was like, oh, look at Russia, they bombed it, they killed all those Ukrainians, etc., etc. Russia, poot, right? But now it seems like there's overwhelming evidence, and who knows if this is the next thing that gets me kicked off. Again, I'm not saying one way or another. People are reporting on it, that actually it looks like it was the Ukrainians. And there's even been some official channels that said that it seems like this is the case because the missiles match the same ones the United States are giving the Ukrainians, right? and they're trying to say it was an accident. Now, is that reality, or is that part of the post-truth world? Were they concerned that some of the soldiers that were in fact POWs were going to basically divulge what the infrastructure actually was? I see my lady friend, the love of my life, in the chat. I hope she's getting her work done. Guys, she's got a big couple of articles and interviews with Michael Flynn coming out. I want to say that I'm extremely proud of her. Not only on that, I mean, she does killer work anyway. But, you know, asked Flynn some tough questions. And this piece that's coming out shortly is actually going to talk about 9/11 with Flynn. We discussed yesterday about Trump, the golf tournament, how he says that nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11 and they should have by now. But let me talk about another conflict I didn't talk about via Trump, right? And 9/11 in general, because, you know, we showed him on the day of 9/11 talking about how he doesn't understand how explosives couldn't be involved. We know on the run up to 9/11 he said you're really going to find out who did this. We also pointed out that at one point he did point to Saudi involvement, and there was certainly that. But how about Rudolph Giuliani being his lawyer? That was another part of my contention with him, period. Like, because you know what? Rudy Giuliani, excuse me, I dropped a sock, exploited that situation on a mass level, did not tell the truth about 9/11. Michael Hess, his right-hand man, was in Building 7, trapped there, after with Barry Jennings, after going up to the Emergency Management Center, which had been abandoned, and then an explosion going on underneath them. He described it on video. Let me repeat that. He described it on video on the news. Giuliani knows there was a lot more to 9/11, and yet he didn't step up to the plate there. And there's a thing called karma, folks. Okay? You guys know I don't like preaching religion, and we don't talk about ghosts or spirit animals here, or the supernatural, or little green men and cheese and all that other nonsense, right? But we do talk about reality that goes, let's see, didn't Cousin get a contract concerning anthrax and testing? That's a very big possibility. I'd say if that's true, by the way, Mr. Telford, that you should probably check out Robbie Martin's work on that. And, you know, Robbie's come after me recently, you know, for my reunion with Jones. I like Robbie. I like Abby. You know what I mean? And I think that we're going to have our disagreements or whatever, but I'm not into the trolling thing, you know? I want honest and open conversation. For instance, again, now we're going to get off on a tangent here, but I guess it could get to that spiritual nature that we were just talking about, right? And I do believe that. It's more than karma. I believe that that's actually part of this transhumanism. Okay, and that's what's scary. Because, all right, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. Let's act like we actually had a benevolent ruling class that shared technology with us and had our best interests at heart, right? Let's start there. Wow, that's pretty awesome. That'd be great. And they were curing diseases, and people were living better lives and had better standards, and it was a pro-human future. Then you could possibly make the argument that some of these technologies that are bio-nanotech, that are human brain interfaces, et cetera, could be a positive thing, right? And they could empower humanity. You get it? But that's not who we have. Instead, we have a bunch of people who take secret oaths amongst one another. They like to play dress up. They like to take part in different types of rituals. If you watched my 4th hour on Jones, I read a part that I didn't read on my previous broadcast from the long ago and the later on, which is George Bromley's autobiography, and talking about the cremation of care, talking about initiation ceremonies, also throughout the book talking about like these names, everybody, the cardinal and the high priest, which he is, all these different names they have for each other. But in particular, he talks about the Buddha jinx, the Aztec jinx, the Druid jinx, Okay, and there's the hijinks and the low jinks. And the hijinks are the ones that are either these elaborate, occultic, pagan type ceremonies or these plays that are based around those themes often. And then the low jinks are like the comedy and the stuff you're seeing those guys dress up like women as and all that other stuff. It's very bizarre. And let's not forget, these guys, in many cases, exploit religion on the level that they act like they are men of the Lord and they're Christians. That's a bunch of Johnny nonsense, and you guys know it and I know it. And, Alex Jones, I believe, has been honest about his account on how he got in. I remember talking to him about it. He talked about hiding under that same thing that he talks about in Alex's War. And somehow Robbie Martin thinks that he was let in by his own admission. I'm not sure what he's talking about. I think there is a possibility that Ronson may have been with them. I'm not quite clear on that as in going in. But other than that, me and Alex had private conversations about it. And even at one time, if you watch the Before Order of Death, you watch out his original put out of that Bohemian Grove footage, Alex said, to me, if you watch that first take of it, it's pretty sensationalized. And, there was one point where he's like, let's be honest, Bermas, it was a little bit sensationalized, that. And I thought to myself, yeah, I mean, the way you presented it, and even to this day, I don't call it Moloch, because it's not Moloch. It's the great owl is their deity. Now, is it a Baal type ritual? Is it a Moloch type ritual, a sacrifice? Sure, it is. But Jones ran with that. He still let me make a movie where I countered that. Right? I mean, Invisible Empire, we don't talk about Moloch. And I think it's pretty effective. I think one of the biggest problems with Invisible Empire, right, is number one, its length. And number two, when it came out, it was just a hammer of a bunch of information. And that's what my documentaries are. They're thick. I liken them to the books that Andy Jacobson has put out. And you got to get to the last 15, 20 minutes if you want to get to the occultism aspect of it, if you want to get to the compromised male prostitutes and call boys aspect of it, right? You got to go all the way down the line. And that movie's 12 years old now, right? And to get back to the transhumanism aspect, in that, we, talk about the track trace database society, we talk about the biometrics that is now coming into play, and then we go as far as basically the Verichip technology that was publicly available now is more accessible than ever, and that, right? So we're way beyond that. We're in nanotechnologyville, we're in smart dust town, we're into all sorts of human brain interface technology that's going to be introduced by cults of personality like Musk, and Musk is just the first. That's just the beginning. Remember, these people are being extremely cavalier about it. 2020 at Davos, when humans become cyborgs. Klaus Schwab talking about human brain interfaces, all these things. It's like, wow. And they've been documented. Remember, they're not pixie dust. And we have agencies like NASA that have been doing experiments with this type of bio-nanotech for decades on record, as well as DARPA. It's highly classified. Somebody sent me a thread of somebody who worked at DARPA. Younger guy. He's probably either in his mid-30s or early 40s at this point. Spent some time there, and he says just basically I'm a big fan of the Freedom of Information Act request, because he got just a small taste of the compartmentalization and how it works, and you can only imagine what they're doing. And seriously, you can only imagine. It's probably beyond our imagination. Let me give you an example. We've been talking about the World Economic Forum, the metaverse push, the cashless society control grid, and this new stakeholder capitalism, social equity. It's all combined. We talked about Israel banning that 6,000, I think it was Shreki or something like that. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing it, but I want to reiterate this. That's around $1,500 cash transactions. I bought a used car before I came out to Iowa. It cost me $3,500, and I paid cash. Like, that would be illegal now in a country that had severe lockdownage. Okay? And then you get in, and all that behavior is going to be hooked into your blockchain and your metaverse tech. And already, you know, I didn't look into how much it is. We've got that haptic feedback that you can put your hands on. You don't need a controller anymore. If you play Thrill of the Fight, which I'm thinking about getting because I really was turned off by Creed, really difficult controls. I hear that this is much better and much more realistic, but it gives you the option of a chest plate or a head plate or arms, so you actually feel that. That is low-level stuff compared to what they have. Again, they have VR rooms where the haptic feedback is everywhere, pressing, and then they have the senses, including your smell. And I also like to reiterate that side-by-side technology, VR technology, is extremely old. It's been around for a very long time. We're talking about several decades at least, okay, semi-commercially. I can go back to when I was on my senior trip, and I think we were over at Busch Gardens, if I'm correct. And one of the video games they had was you could stand in, and it was, you know, basic polygon stuff, but you had the guns here, and you were moving around, and you had the headset on as well, and you were looking, and you're like, whoa, this is huge. Now, you're talking about, doesn't have to be plugged in, sensors are on the front, there's even some haptic feedback in the controllers that you're using, and if you want to add on the add-ons where those controllers are no longer necessary, you can get it at home, probably under $1,000. Just great. Just great. So, I'd always taken the depopulation agenda very seriously, extremely seriously, but thought to myself, you know, it would have to be over a long period of time. Yeah, these are their ideals, but they could never actually manage to do it. And then you saw people, and this was still around the time that I was with InfoWars, like Zbigniew Brzezinski, talking about how in the past it was a lot harder to, you know, kill 1 million people than control 1 million people. And he's like, now that's totally reversed. So you could kill 1 million people in a blink of an eye, no problem. Control them is going to be a lot tougher. And they've used psychological warfare with a slew of other tools at their disposal to bring society right now into such chaos that they're, you know, we watched it today where they're running ads all over the place talking about a reset and how everything's falling apart and they got every, like, half-tard, celebritard, Johnny Nonsense person preaching this stuff. Preaching sustainability, preaching climate change, preaching the UBI. It's ridiculous. Humans need a purpose. We're pretty damn special. All of these human brain interface technologies that they are going to offer you and put out there could easily be utilized by wearables. 100%. They want hardwire access to not only your body, your physical being, but your very soul. I promise you that. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe in a soul or not, your human essence, what makes you, your consciousness. And it is incredibly unique. I promise you that. Despite all the programming out there and how many things that we've all succumbed to because of, you know, subconscious post-hypnotic suggestions. Despite all that, you're still badass, you're still unique, you're still extremely powerful. And you can overcome things you can't even possibly imagine. We're awesome. They want to take that all away. They want to make you feel this small. They want to fall. They want you to fall into line of false solutions. And that's the other thing. You think these people that are bringing in this cybernetics and these interfaces in the virtual world, you think they care about you? at all, and humanity at all, when we've seen what they've done, who they are. We talked about the spiritual aspect. These people are pedophiles in many cases, right? Purveyors of genocide. Purveyors of genocide. These are the people. They're the ones that offered you the solutions of SSRI drugs, of psychotics. These are the people. Just wow. I gotta get back to some folding as we discuss this. By the way, thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. 170 watching. Can we get 100 thumbs up? You want to support the broadcast, guys? One way you can do is by just checking out the information I'm talking about and checking out my documentary films. You know, and the other thing is that made me pay attention even then. And one of the things, you got to give it to Alex. He was talking about these UN agendas and how they would be the modus operandi, and they are the vehicle for instituting the vast majority of this through, again, those post-hypnotic suggestions. Oh, you don't have to agree. We just have a treaty. You don't actually have to abide by these things. They're just what we recommend. You mandate, right? Man, I watched Fabled Enemies for the first time this week, and it blew my mind. My man, Luke Stone, thank you. You are a new viewer. And that's an important one because it shows you how this is an international intelligence cartel. Just like we talked about Israel and their cash and their severe lockdownage and their QR codes, right? Israel, throughout this Anglo-American, Israeli, and sometimes Saudi alliance, has been an intricate player. Forget about just Epstein and Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father. Forget about the mirror and all that other stuff. Go all the way back in that same era and think about Iran-Contra and how they were moving the arms. These people are arms dealers. We're supposed to trust the arms dealers. All right, they're arms dealers who are then running drugs in the United States. So basically the Israeli angle was, we'll buy the guns from Czechoslovakia and Poland, we'll ship them down to South America, down to the Sandinistas. We'll take care of that part. Then you, the United States, gets to move your drugs as payment up through, do what you got to do with a little dicka-dicka-do, sell, and then you pay us off. And it's plausible deniability. And then you watch Fabled Enemies, my friend, and you see that the Israelis had, deep involvement in 9/11. The Pakistanis had deep involvement in 9/11. The cover-up within our own government was deep state, the real deal. That's why we put Peter Dale Scott in Invisible Empire. Come on now. Don't have to fold clothes in the Zuckerverse. Yeah, exactly. Your clothes will never, ever get dirty. You'll never have to waste your time doing this again. And by the way, I could take this time and be myself and maybe just listen to music or watch a documentary when I do it, but I'm getting things done. I am now dedicated. I've got to get at least 3 videos a day in. I need to bring more people into the fold than ever. I need premium subscribers over at Rockfin. $99.99 for the year, and you get everybody's stuff, and you support this broadcast. You got to do it on a desktop. We're working with them hard to try to get an embed code, bring more people to that platform. We're paying for Rumble because, listen, again, we need to expand. And shout out to my girlfriend who, again, she writes for the Gateway Pundit, and sometimes she embeds some of my videos in these articles. That's bringing people in. Again, let's talk about, how I was able to talk about the reality of transhumanism, how Elon Musk is pushing it, and the war machine. There's a great YouTube channel out there called NetGain, has a lot of raw video on it. And they just published a video where they showed, I believe it was, was it 10 or 12? I want to say it was 12,000 Starlink are up in the Ukrainian area right now, and how they have the most Starlink in all of Europe. And of course, Starlink is being used in this military conflict against Russia, this proxy war. Russia's running wild ads telling you to come move to Russia or come visit Russia and come soon because winter is coming. You got the space agency head there because, again, space warfare is real, threatening to nuke all the NATO nations within 30 minutes. Okay? I mean, all this is going down. It's just... And the mainstream media is acting like, oh, it's okay. It's okay, and Elon Musk is your friend. Elon Musk is just like, he's a hobo. He's a billionaire hobo sleeping on people's couches, banging people's wives and breaking up their marriages while he's out on boats looking pasty white. Meanwhile, he's also running blackjack. Again, we're talking about transhumanism. We're talking about space warfare. Dennis Bushnell has talked about how the robots are better in space. And if we really want to get the humans out in space, what do we have to do? We have to space harden them. That means bioengineer them. That's what we need to do. Come on. Can we get 100 thumbs up? Almost 200 people watching. Oh, and by the way, guys, I'm going to be uploading more to Podbean. That's where we find the audio versions. But if you are new, if you haven't seen Fabled Enemies, if you haven't seen Loose Change Final Cut, and you don't understand why 9/11 is important, for instance, I could see a lot of people watching the Alex Jones documentary, Alex's War, which, again, it's basically a Jones narrative. I gave the full review today. It's not challenging on him much. It doesn't always present him in the best light, but it's more cinema verite. When 9/11 comes along, or Oklahoma City comes along, and you might not understand that at all, because you're newer to Jones, and you are one of these people that came in from MAGA, but now you're kind of taking a step back and you're looking at other things. 9/11 is essential. 9/11 is totally essential, and that's why Fabled Enemies and Loose Change Final Cut are still important. Now, on the flip of that, although they're briefly talked about in Invisible Empire, there's also a brief section on Timothy McVeigh and the Central Intelligence Agency, and him looking like he was working for the military after he had already supposedly been discharged from the military. Okay? So that film, you know, one of its big strengths is it's not a documentary that tries, like Alex is like, look here's the doc, I have the documents, we're going through the documents, blah 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 blah. Those are like my type of film. Tell me about Westworld. Well, I'll tell you what about Westworld. I am like 4 episodes behind. You know, hey Spiro, how we doing? Corbett has some good stuff on Tim. On Tim who? I'm trying to think who you're talking about. Huh. Spiro, of course, has one of the best Twitter feeds out there, no matter how many times they ban him. But once again, if you want those documentaries and those documents, they're out there. And they're getting harder and harder to find. I think Jones did a broadcast yesterday where he was talking about Endgame 1.5 or 2.0 or something like that. And I remember, you know, that was the time I was starting to get involved there, and he was putting these things out. Basically, you know, that had Jim Tucker, who I was talking about a ton, Daniel Estolon, and others. It was in 3 different parts. And it just shows you, again, these were serious. He was serious. Yeah, you've watched all of Westworld? Listen, Westworld, if we want to get through it, talks about whether or not consciousness is real. Talks about the coming automation. It talks about basically all the human beings that are outside of the park having human brain interfaces. Instead of SSRIs, we're talking about deep fake humans that may or may not be alive, fractured memories. We talked about how in the very beginning of last season, they had the social distancing with Caleb, and they had the masks on, right? They want you in this it's a brave new world, right? You look at Earth 2100, okay? Another thing that Jones and I covered, I think all the way back in 2008 or 9 when it came out, maybe 9. Tony Podesta, Van Jones, James Woolsey, Tony Fauci, Eric Schmidt, they're all in it. They're all in it. And this idea that we're going to destroy the world within 100 years is really a truncated, you know, this is their move to 2030 to try to get you into that, to make you believe you're bad and your standard of living has to go down. And you have to wear a mask. And you have to, you know, be with the refugee culture. They don't tell you all these other technologies that are now swinging in quick. Swinging in really quick. Oh, we could keep going. What's on you guys' mind? What's on your mind, transhumanism? You got an example? without ruining any of Westworld this season for me? Or anything else out there? You know, Ex Machina, I've never watched that. Jason, hear about True Detective Season 4 with Jodie Foster? Sounds lame. I know it's got women in it. Everyone mentions Saudi links to 9/11, but there's another country that has links to 9/11 that are stunning. Again, that's why, you know, the Saudi links in Fabled Enemies, basically, we talk about the money movement, Yassine Qadi, Robert Wright, Barry Karmati, Bush's Bin Ladens. We show the Bin Ladens being shipped out. We show you that money, right? But then you also have to look at the money and the support from the Pakistani ISI, and then you have to see the Israelis, okay, that infiltrated the entire structure. Then you have to look at how that coincides with these drills that are running on the week of 9/11 and the morning of 9/11. And then you have to look at Cheyenne Mountain. And you have to look at how the continuity of government and the E4Bs were at the scenes of the crime. Right? All of it. All of it. It does. One part doesn't work without the other. I'm sure it doesn't hurt that you have Chertoff, okay, whose mother was Mossad, who Benjamin Chertoff will later spearhead the new debunking. It's before the fact check, right, with Popular Mechanics, and then they hand it off to James Meggs. But at the time, he's the deputy director of the FBI. When Robert Wright and others come forward and say, hey, we know how the money moves, we don't want to hear about conspiracy theories. And then what? He becomes the initial Homeland Security Director. And he's one of the big pushes for the surveillance state that's going to go hyper speed at airports. If you think it's bad now, I mean, you had Capo Cuomo bragging when he was breaking out his Build Back Better. That's when we got you to take your shoes off. We need to take care of this. He got the body scanners in there, Chertoff did. Well, let me tell you, this Next Gen initiative that I've hit on, everybody needs to check it out. The Next Gen initiative. Total track trace database recognition everywhere. All over your body. Amazing how you can't find the movie Gray State anywhere anymore. I never watched Gray State all the way through. I'm not even sure if I'm in it. You know, I met those guys. Obviously, just like tragic what happened there. They interviewed me at Bilderberg 2012. Jason, what are your thoughts on the Watchers or Nephilim theory? I don't buy into any of that. Well, all right. First of all, let me roll that back a little bit. Let me roll that back. I think when you get into things that are esoteric or things that are written in ancient texts, whether it be the Bible or otherwise, or scrolls, etc., etc., I'm not from that time period. I'm not from that culture. I'm not educated in any of that. I can't read that stuff. I don't know how many times it's been translated, right? Now, that doesn't mean that a lot of truth or reality hasn't been pushed through into ancient stories, no matter how many times played kind of this telephone game and reinterpreted it or rewritten it in another language. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that I don't know for sure. When we talk about, you know, aliens basically, or the Prometheus type theory, I don't buy it. I don't buy it, man. I you know, the more and more I look at what happened during World War II and the public information and the black sites and the technologies, and not only the Nazis, but what the Japanese were doing and what we know we were doing, I'm convinced that our technology is just so far over the top that these people love pushing that there is a possibility that we're not alone in the universe or interdimensionally. But come on now. Again, you need, at this point, I've said it before and I'll say it again, a lot of people talk about Project Bluebeam. Well, Project Bluebeam, I would love to get, basically there's a lecture from a gentleman that says that he's documented it. I've never seen the documents on it. And in Bluebeam, it calls for a plan not only for the voice of God or an alien invasion, but that type of holographic technology coupled with what we have for aerospace technology is out there right now. What I don't think people realize is out there, and I'm sure they could roll out with this, and it's a possibility. they could land some kind of craft that just looked wild. Just like, wow, what is this? And then beings, and when I say they, I'm talking human beings. I'm talking the predator class. I'm not talking about demons interdimensionally. I'm not talking about anything. I'm not talking about shape-shifting aliens. I'm talking about human beings. Could land a craft in public and then make it look like there's a fleet of those craft, even if there wasn't, through another type of technology. Beings, biological beings, could get out. Those biological beings could be engineered, and they could actually believe they're from the Zeta Reticuli or whatever Johnny nonsense story they want to put out there. I encourage people, when we get into like the alien discussion and the amount of disinformation, not only to check out Andy Jacobson's work, but absolutely check out the documentary Mirage Man, because the bioengineering of human beings and that type of experimentation has been going on now for almost a century. Almost a century. And I don't care what they show me. I don't care what rolls out. I am just not going to buy into the fact that these are aliens. All right? So that's, I've never bought into the Anunnaki or the Palladians. They all sound like nice stories, right? And the more and more you look into legitimate UFO sightings, right? If you get into the realm of people that have had these, instances of where they believe they've been abducted, it seems like they're highly suggested they're probably under all sorts of drugs. And even the X-Files back in the day kind of showed that a lot of these may have been induced hallucinations. And we know what the power of suggestion is. We've seen how powerful that is. Now, think to yourself, couple that with human brain interface technology that may not have to be implantable. Maybe just like an outer device to make you believe that something else is going on. I mean, you look at MK Ultra, trauma-based mind control, anything's possible. Anything's possible. And I always consider everything, but I've heard it all. I've read the Bill Cooper. I've watched the Phil Schneider lectures. I've seen a lot of the hoaxed stuff that's out there, from alien autopsy on, CGI aliens, all that stuff. I've read, as many of the documents as you can imagine. I've read, the Majestic 12 documents. I've done it all. What do we got here? Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share, by the way. And again, please consider supporting the broadcast. You can buy me a coffee. The link is down below. Rockfin, $99.99 for the year, or $9.99 a month. We could always use the subscribers, and then you get everybody's premium content as well. People like the Convo Couch, Steve from Slow News Day, Graham Elwood, if you're kind of a lefty, huh? I know that Graham doesn't love what I do some of the times. I want diverse voices. I think that Richard Medhurst does some good work. He's over there. Michael Tracy, Franco from Frank's Analysis, just a lot of different voices from all sides of the political spectrum that I enjoy. Sam Tripoli, my good friend, is there as well. Conspiracy Castle, yes, they're there. Alex Stein, another great one. What about the soldier who had his finger shot off by a ray alien with a laser weapon? Here's an interesting one. How about this? Let's talk about, Eddie Bravo's out there. When Melissa and Aaron Dykes were doing their film, The Minds of Men, which I encourage everybody to go check out, 3+ hour film. What a documentary. Their work is absolutely amazing. They're still doing it right now. They're great. Originally, they went out to Long Island. That's when we got together in New York. They came up and visited me, stayed with me for a day or two. And they had interviews with, Sheldon, and I got to watch some of these interviews and some of the cuts. Basically, the Montauk Boys. And if you research the Montauk Boys, it seems like there's just no possibility any of this stuff could be true. Any of it. And then you go to this base or whatever in Long Island that has this really large, weird-looking antenna that was still up, and then it has this underground facility. And there's video inside the facility, and I mean, it's something like it's Stranger Things inspired. Let me say that. I think that a lot of what was happening to these people was a combination of drugs, mind control, and then technology. Absolutely. But that type of mind control more than likely had to do with severe trauma, whether it was sexual or otherwise. Okay? And my take is that in a lot of these cases, these people are so torn up, so shattered, so dejected that they don't know what reality is. Geneva Kadroba, Jason, do you believe in God? Tough question. I always say this, because I think that religion is an important thing. I hate shitting on other people's belief systems or any of that. I think that good and evil absolutely 100% exist. I also believe that we are living in the here and now, the flesh and blood, and that our decisions matter because we have free will and there's a morality. And like I said, that morality is based in good and evil. None of us are perfect. All right? I also believe that there is so much out there that we cannot comprehend by design, and that what some people would call God, I don't want to get all Star Wars, but it could literally be a force that is nature, that is the creator. And I lean into, I always say agnostic at best, but I lean into the fact that I do believe that we were created as something special. I do believe that what we should be doing is trying to empower one another, and that obviously the most important thing and the best thing in this existence are the human relationships we develop together based in love. And family is kind of like that ultimate love, because your friends will come and go, and that doesn't mean you can't build those type of relationships, right? And obviously when you find that special someone, try to build a family and you're able to do that, that's what I'm talking about. But your siblings, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, there's kind of this bond. And I see that the people at the top of the predator class knowing about this bond, right? That they want to break up. That is the family, that is that love that lets you sacrifice more of your individuality and take away your ego, right? And I think that there's also this drive in society where they want you pushing into consumerism, emptiness. They push away from the family, all those things. Let's see what else we got. Jason, here's the kicker. Let's bring that down. Here's the kicker. You are already imprisoned in the metaverse. You are talked to in non-player character simulations. Well, I'm sure there are a ton of bots out there on these devices. Let's not act like they're not, right? That's the real deal. Let's see. Well, God bless you, Jason. God is love. Thank you for your answer. Yes, I try to be exact. Or try to be as honest as possible. What happened with you and Luke Radowski? You used to work together. That happened, man. Me and Luke stopped working together, I think all the way back in late 2018 or early 2019. The deal was there that, at the time, I had quit my job at the bar that I was running. I started working for We Are Change part-time, and there was a certain amount of money I needed to make at the time, and now I really got to make more. Let's be honest. I was making 40 grand and just scraping by, and all of a sudden the demonetization started happening, and unfortunately, economically, couldn't afford to pay me any more. My wages got cut by a quarter. I couldn't live on that. So, I started doing my own thing, and it was the best decision I made. Now, it's, crypto's down, guys. It's tough for me to, every time I get kicked off of YouTube, it's tough to, bring more people in. But, me and Luke have spent time together since. He's the one that invited me up to stay over at Tim Pool's on January 4th before everything. So, look, man, I love what Luke does. I think that, the more voices, the better. We're not all. It's not like Luke and I agreed on everything, too. A lot of people point to my relationship with Alex Jones, right? But, Luke, any of these guys, I love those guys. We don't always agree. We agree on a lot of the big stuff. And then we also agree that we can disagree and we can have conversations. Imagine that. Imagine that. Can you imagine? Wow. Unique. Let's see. Yeah, I would do Timcast in a second. I'd love to be a remote guest on Timcast. I know everybody goes in, and I've been inside the studio and all that other stuff. But I think my strength is my ability to bring up videos and documents and news articles on the fly. I will be in New York. I'll be speaking at the Reawaken America Tour. In fact, why am I doing this laundry so late and doing this? Because I'm headed back to Virginia with my girlfriend, and then I will be speaking at the Reawaken America Tour in Batavia. Instead of talking about transhumanism and Elon Musk and space warfare, I am going to talk about the history of the deep state. I'm going to be talking about some Bohemian Grove. And if you've been watching my stuff recently, it's going to be a presentation kind of based around that, heavy on the Annie Jacobson and clips, but I only get like 13 to 15 minutes. So, I got to be like boom, 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 boom. Did you do well financially on Loose Change? Still such a classic. Certainly not at the time. I was working for those guys. I don't own Loose Change. I get a producer credit on the final cut. I've got a production assistant credit on the second edition, and I was paid basically a salary. And then through the final cut, I got like a small percentage, but that didn't do anywhere near what you could imagine because we gave it away for free, just like we gave everything away for free. And I'd say, out of all the films I've done, Invisible Empire was probably the most profitable for me. I think I made the most money on that one, but it still was shy of six figures for the year by quite a bit. And that's all the way back in 2010. Just giving you all the financial rundowns. I don't do this for the money. Let's see. Cover the WPath Eunuch Archive scandal. I don't know exactly what that is. You can send me some links at Jason Bermas over on Twitter. It's a great way to get a hold of me. What else we got here, guys? JB, do you miss making pizzas? Every once in a while. I'll tell you what I have here, which is cool. First of all, everybody knows that I love to make a great New York pizza. I love throwing the dough. If you want to see me make some pizza, you can check me out. Just type in Tino's Pizza, healthy junk food, and you'll find me flipping some pies, some cold cheese, some good stuff. I'm sure you can find me elsewhere. When I went back last time to New York in April, I was lucky enough that my boy Tino was there, and I got to make my lady friend a pizza. Delicious. So that was fun. Here I have a thing called like the Pizza Chef. It's this little flip thing. It doesn't give you the same kind of dough feel, but it does let you do a pretty mean homemade pizza if you're making the sauce from scratch or if you're doing a specialty pie. My girl's a vegetarian, so I can't do any of the specialty chicken pies that we would do over at Tino's and all that stuff. I love pizza, but I look at that. In fact, look, man, I could tomorrow. I've got a buddy. He does real estate. He has an entire pizza restaurant, all the equipment in storage right now in a building he showed me to rent. If I wanted to start getting up at 5 in the morning and working until 6 or 7 at night and making sure that everything was in order and having daily stresses of a restaurant most people can't imagine, I could probably pull in a couple million a year at a minimum. All right, I don't want to tell you what my old boss does in upstate New York. Does pretty well. Does pretty damn well. It's not my passion. I think I've talked about it, and down the line, who knows? Who knows? Maybe I do end up doing that, or instead of being there 12 hours a day, maybe I do that like twice a week or whatever. That's a real business where you got to do real prep work. But, when I was over in New York, one of the more fun things I've done, and I know some of you have seen me go live from inside there, was go not only, shoot the shit with my good friend while he rolled dough, but cut the dough or fill the blue cheese and ranch or, spin the breadsticks, all those things. That's it. Am I going to have kids? I'm trying right now. My girlfriend already has a beautiful little fun daughter, and she just turned 8. She's great. I hate getting too much into personal life stuff, but yeah, I mean, I've tried. Listen, I've always wanted to be a family man. I totally believe this is the woman that I'm going to be with the rest of my life, and I want to be a little league coach too. So, I mean, I want it all. Are you happy where you moved? What state are you in now? I'm super happy. I love Iowa. I think Iowa is one of the best kept secrets out there. I'm in the Quad Cities. I think it's great here. Honestly, my other sister is up with her baby, who's 1.5. She just brought back my nieces. They were out in Florida with my sister. My mother's now down there. My stepfather's down there. They all live in that area. And, we got to we went to another park the last time she was here. We went to another park this time she was here. We got to go to all sorts of parks, walks. I love it here. I honestly, I feel like I picked a pretty cool place. And I'll be calling fights in October. Caged Aggression. Check them out. Did anyone here move during? Yes, I did. And I went to Iowa. Yeah, Iowa was the place to go. I went across the country before that. Shout out from Des Moines. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's keep going because I've still got more. When am I getting married? Who knows? Down the line for sure. But, I want that to be, basically I want that to be a party. Why wouldn't I? That's all that has to be. I've never been big on labels and all that other stuff, but I've also said that I never want to get divorced. Period. Divorce, no thank you. How'd you meet her? That's a story for another time. I appreciate you asking. Just putting you on the spot. Well, thank you for putting me on the spot. It's very nice of you. Hey, Bermas, good to see you healthy and clean. Well, thank you. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that was a scary thing. The vertigo thing, woo, totally gone. I haven't experienced anything like that. Maybe some other little health issues, but nothing. The eye thing is still there. Kind of grown accustomed to it almost, which isn't a great thing, but I'm hoping it's going to reverse. Obviously, I've been reading more on air and just kind of having it. Did you see? I've never seen any of the seasons of American Horror Story, actually. So that question I can answer pretty quickly. You're 43 now. I am 43. Yes. 43 years young. Old man McGee, right here. A lot of gray hair in there. Take a look. There's some gel in there, but still, the grays are popping. That's what I mean, man. You don't know how many years you get. Period. You just it's every day is another day. You got to push forward. I don't know that 43 is young, but I'm moving forward. I'm pushing forward. All of us are. There is no going backwards, right, guys? You had your first baby at 43. God's miracle. That's awesome. I'm hoping. I literally just turned 43 last weekend, so I'm also hoping that this is the year that I become a dad. I'm 20 and hate my generation. Bro, let me tell you something. Before this, I was running a bar, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Alan Watt or Alan Watts. Alan, if you're talking about Alan Watt, who was in a lot of Jones's documentaries, I always thought he was really good. Yeah, thought he was really good. Let's keep doing the laundry. Oh, we're almost at an hour. Guys, remember to check out the documentary films for free, okay? Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture. Rockfin. Guys, there's so many interviews and stuff on Rockfin that you won't find anywhere else. For instance, I did, Patrick Byrne, Andrew Wakefield. You'll find those over at Rockfin. You're not going to find them on YouTube. That was the last time I was at the Reawaken America tour. And I'm really looking forward to going again and making more connections. And exposing people to information. You know, a lot of these people think Mike Pompeo is still going to come and save them. My God. No, he's not. No, he's not. No, Mike Pompeo is not here to save anybody. Mike Pompeo is part of the agenda. So, come on. Bill Barr as well. Come on. Let's see. Mermaid Moxie. Will Jones ever talk about the dancing Israelis? You mean like when he produced my film from 2008 that has an entire section on not only the dancing Israelis, but Israel and its role in 9/11? It's almost 20 minutes. Like, when is he going to do that? Like when he did that 14 plus years ago now? I mean, this is also it's just like, you answer the same questions again and again and again and again for well over a decade. My goodness. Andrew Wakefield is a lot like AJ Legacy. He keeps getting righter. LOL. I mean, look, I had followed his work for years, and I got to sit down with him for like 20 plus minutes. He was a little hesitant at first because you never know who you're going to be talking to, etc. But we had a great conversation. It was a great back and forth. Have you had the chance to meet Alex? You feel he is genuine? Just again, if you didn't watch today, I did an entire review of Alex's War. I am the first person Alex Jones ever gave their own show to. Alex Jones produced my films Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, An Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. I once spent a Thanksgiving with the man and his family. I haven't talked to him behind the scenes. I mean, what you've seen on air, Daria, his producer, is the one that usually contacts me and has me. I think Scott did it last time. So, yeah, watch it. Watch my review of Alex's War. But here's the thing. If you haven't watched Alex's War, it just kind of lets Jones and the gang narrate. All right? That's it. If you want to find out whether what he's talking about is true or not, it's probably a good idea to either watch his work or my work. And I think that I do a damn good job of laying the facts out there kind of bare in a documentary style manner where you get to make your own decision and see if I editorialize too much. That's why Shade the Motion Picture, which was not produced by Alex, and Alex is in, doesn't have me as a narrator at all. Because I want it to be taken along by other people and them talking and showing the documents. Okay? Let's see what we got here. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Can we get 200 thumbs on this one? We're riding dirty on the Laundry Fold AMA. This is how dirty we ride. Riding dirty, everybody. Are you washing clothes for the entire block? Guys, I have way too many clothes, and I need to get rid of at least half of them. Eternal Bliss, did you watch my broadcast earlier? We need to reset the financial system. Oh, this is all clean laundry. Bernard does make some entertaining and informative docs. I don't know who Bernard is. Are you saying Bermas, maybe? Oh yeah, Eternal Bliss. Listen, that's how ridiculous it is. It's like you put like a backbeat and some graphics, and it's like, we're going to take away your standard of living. You're not going to be able to own a car. You're going to live in a box, and you won't be able to procreate. Like, come on. What do I know about the CNP, the Council on National Policy? It's a conservative group, many of them who are involved in awful foreign policy and arms deals getting together that are still under that guise of Christianity and conservatism. I've talked about them before. I know, like, Buchanan is a member. Who, Buchanan out of like the right-wing structure over the last 30 years, although he was demonized, was one of the better ones. I thought. I would say that, I know there was a big criticism of Jones not talking about them back in the day and that they had superpower. I'd say they're an understructure of the CFR, but very much involved in the type of predator class maneuvers that result in business deals and policy. The Council on National Policy. I guess that's my take on them. I don't think that, when I talk cream of the crop, I talk Bilderberg for a damn good reason. Because that is, and again, how do I put this? It's just like I don't think that Poot is great, and that Russia is awesome, and that they don't want a new world order. You better believe the Pootster wants a new world order. And I've talked recently about the Belt and Road Initiative, and the Israeli investment there with China as well. right? They're working towards their own deal. But when you talk about the power structure, at least that I'm seeing's agenda pushed, it's that top 20-25 at the Bilderberg conference on the steering committee that are the movers and shakers, that upper echelon of the predator class that are carrying everything out, that are the minds of that. And then you have the other invites, okay? And it gets dispersed. That's how I feel. And that's why I always talk about at least what we know about the public head of the snake, because the modus operandi is obviously the United Nations and NATO and international treaties and things like the European Union, right? All these subdivisions, they're used as the proxy for this agenda. That's my opinion. And look, you have infighting. You have different visions at times. That's my take. Thoughts on Catherine Austin Fitts? Catherine Austin Fitts ends up being one of those prophets, right? She's been talking about the education system for a very long time. Agenda 21. I've seen her actually doing some work via the Reawaken America tour with things we can't talk about here on YouTube, and I think there's probably a lot of validity to the things that she's putting out there. I've not covered a lot of it because I'm waiting. I'm seeing a lot of different things coming out, and I don't even want to talk about it on YouTube. I don't want to get kicked off. Bermas, did you lease the office space? I didn't. If so, let me know if you need any help with anything. I wish I had. The one I showed, the smaller office, that fell through. The guy that was going to buy it, the guy that I was sitting there talking to as I went on it, isn't going to be able to do it. And then the other place is big, and it's a big commitment. And right now financially, I don't know if I can do it. I'm just being honest. So that's why we're going to try to kick it up a notch and do at least 3 videos a day. Back when I was doing the 3 to 8 videos a day, most of them were in the 10 to 15 minute range. Every once in a while I do an AMA or something a little more in depth. I have been trying to go much longer with my videos. This one right here is going to be an hour, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes I'm sacrificing on that, but you live near Oneonta? Where near Omaha? I thought you were talking about Oneonta, New York. I'm in the Quad Cities, baby. Quad Cities. Love the Quad Cities. So look, I haven't given up. Again, I'm about to be on the road doing this thing. Let's see if I can keep up while I'm over in Virginia, for instance, and on the road to New York, 3 videos a day. See if I can stay on YouTube with all the censorship that's just wild sauce. And with that, I think that we're going to wrap this one up. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. The links are down below if you want to support the broadcast. Occult Priestess just came in. We're in Virginia. I'll be right outside of D.C. But I'll only be there for a few days and then off to New York and then back to Iowa. So we're going to try to put out as much material as we possibly can. I want you to check out the documentary films if you haven't. Check out all the uncensored stuff over at Rockfin and now Rumble. Check out Podbean as well. It's got an RSS feed. Guys, it's never about left or right to me. It is always about right and wrong. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to do the right thing even when I'm folding laundry. So I love you guys, and I will see you on the flip side.